has decided that women's sports and girls' sports no longer matters, and they're willing to push radical legislation designed to destroy girls' sports and women's sports. Ms. Gaines, I want to thank you for your courage. You are relatively young, but you have demonstrated incredible courage. And because you have dared to speak up, you have been demonized, you have been vilified. I saw when you were attacked by a leftist mob at San Francisco State University for daring to speak up. You had an incredible record as a swimmer at the University of Kentucky. You were a two-time NCAA All-American. You were a five-time SEC champion. You're an SEC record holder and a two-time Olympic trial qualifier. But yet on March 27th, 2022, something changed. What happened on March 17th, 2022?
That's when Thomas and I raced in the 200 freestyle and again resulted in a tie.
And so you tied. What was the consequence of tying?
We went behind the awards podium where typically you're handed your trophy, you're marched out, you're named an All-American. And so we go back there and the official looks at both Thomas and myself and says, "Great job, but you guys tied. And we only have one trophy, therefore we're giving this trophy to Leah." And I question this and I say, "Why?" And at first I shortened it in my testimony, but really he stumbled on his words. He didn't know how to answer this. And at first he's, well, we're just doing this in chronological order. To which I further pressed and I said, "Okay, well, what are you being chronological about? Because we tied. And if we're doing this off alphabetical order, G comes before T, so what are you being chronological about?" To which this wasn't a script they had prepared for him. And he actually appreciated his honesty. He did say, "We have to give the trophy for Leah because Leah has to have it for pictures." They've made that clear. Leah has to have the trophy for pictures. You can pose with this trophy, but you have to give yours back. You have to go home empty-handed. Leah Thomas takes the trophy home. End of story.
Now, let me ask you, as someone who's competed at the elite level, in your experience, is there a difference between women and men?
Of course. I think we learned this at a very young age, watching even 12 and unders play. Going through puberty causes irreversible advantage, that no matter the training, no matter the diet, no matter any alterable change you can make, will overcome that male advantage. Especially in sports like swimming, where lung capacity matters so much. Even something as silly as throat size, men have on average a 40% larger throat, which sounds like it's nothing, but when you're grasping for air, that 40% larger throat makes a huge difference in athletic success, not to mention height. You guys know the differences.
Ms. Robinson, do you agree with Ms. Gaines that there's a difference between women and men?
If the question is about trans women...
I'm just asking, is there a difference between women and men?
I mean, what I can say is that the NCAA has rules in place. They've had rules in place for the last decade, and when this competition happened,
I'm going to try again.
The rules were clear.
Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? It's a yes-no question. Do you believe there's a difference?
Oh, I think that we're talking about this case with the NCAA.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you believe there's a difference between women and men? Most people could answer this very simply. I'm curious if you're willing to do so.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just putting it into the context of the conversation that we're having. I think that there are definitions related to sex.
Is that a yes? So I'm trying to get a yes or no. I'm not trying to get a speech. Is there a difference between women and men?
I think that there are definitions for biological sex.
Okay, so you're not answering that. Let me ask you this question then. Why do women's sports exist? If you can't define a difference between women and men, why not abolish women's sports and just tell little girls to swim with little boys and see who wins?
Oh, I'm simply saying that that sex is
My
different
question,
than gender.
Why
and I do believe that women's sports have a great
exist?
value. I mean, Senator, I'll tell you right now.
Ms. Robinson, please answer the question I'm asking you.
Absolutely.
Why do women's sports exist?
I think that there are so many positive benefits to sports.
But why have a separate category for women? If there's no difference between women and men, why to have women's sports?
I'm saying that there's a difference between sex and gender, and that the NCAA has rules in place, which they have for the last decade.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to enter into the record an article from Duke Law called Comparing Athletic Performances for the Best Elite Women to Boys and Men. And it goes through examining in 2017 the top records for women in the world in various track and field events. So, for example, in the 100-meter, the top record for women in the world was 10.71 seconds. Now, that record for the number one woman in the world in 2017 was, in the year 2017, broken by 124 boys under 18. In that same year, the record for the number one competing woman in the 100-meter dash in the world was broken by a total of 2,474 men. If the radical Democrat agenda to destroy girls' sports and women's sports succeeds, little girls will not have a chance to compete. So I ask unanimous consent that this article be entered into the record.
Without objection. Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues,
Here is what the media won't tell you. Cruz came to that hearing as the father of 2 daughters who were both athletes. He did not come to debate gender theory. He came to ask the most basic question in sports: is there a difference between women and men? And the president of the Human Rights Campaign could not answer it. First, the Riley Gaines testimony. Cruz started with the woman sitting next to Kelly Robinson at that witness table. Riley Gaines, 2-time NCAA All-American, 5-time SEC champion, 2-time Olympic trial qualifier, a young woman who tied with Leah Thomas in the 200 freestyle at the NCAA championships and was told she had to give her trophy back because Thomas needed it for pictures. Cruz asked Gaines directly, is there a difference between women and men? She gave the answer every scientist and every athlete already knows. Going through male puberty creates physical advantages that no amount of training, diet, or alteration can overcome. A 40% larger throat, larger heart, greater lung capacity, greater bone density, greater muscle mass. These are not opinions. These are documented biological facts. Cruz pointed out the data that nobody in the Democrat Party wants to discuss. A Duke Law article entered into the record showed that in 2017, the top women's 100-meter world record was broken by 2,474 men that same year. Not elite men, just men. The number one woman in the world in the 100-meter dash had her record broken by over 2,000 ordinary men in a single year. Second, the Robinson implosion. Cruz turned to Kelly Robinson, president of the Human Rights Campaign, the Democrat witness brought to Congress to defend transgender participation in women's sports. Cruz asked her the same question he asked Gaines: do you believe there is a difference between women and men? She would not answer. Cruz pressed, most people can answer this very simply. Is there a difference between women and men? Robinson kept redirecting, talked about NCAA policies, talked about inclusion, talked about the importance of all young people being able to participate in sports. Cruz pressed again, yes or no, is there a difference between women and men? She still would not say yes. Cruz delivered the line that ended the entire exchange. If you cannot define a difference between women and men, then why do women's sports exist at all? Why not abolish the category entirely and just tell little girls to compete against little boys and see who wins? Robinson had no answer. Third, Serena Williams moment. Kennedy then asked